Hello, everyone. I just wanted to give people a few seconds to come on. And ask any questions that they may have about the presentation. So sorry about that. That got a little bit messed up there. I wanted to load it beforehand, and that didn't work out. So if anybody has any questions about the presentation, about multi-dog households, thinking about getting a puppy, already have two dogs, maybe we're having some disagreements between the dogs, anything like that, now's the time to ask. Or if you just want to say hello, that's perfectly okay too. So we'll just wait a few minutes. Let everyone join. So one thing that I didn't kind of expand on too much was the activity levels between Lycan and Nero. I think I kind of underplayed that a little bit. And to be honest, it was something that I personally was not expecting. I was not, I wouldn't say I wasn't prepared because I was prepared, but I think I wasn't prepared as I should be. So some of the issues that we encountered, first and foremost, which I touched a little bit on in the presentation, was activity levels. So Nero had a very good thing going for him. He was, he had his mom and his dad. He had, whatever he wanted to do. He would have his toys down. He had a basket, which is just, oops, not there. He had a basket of toys that he could go into whenever he wanted to. So he really he lived the life as an only child. He had everything given, to him and to him only. And then this dog came along, and Nero, I have to kind of caveat that by saying that Nero loves other dogs. Like, he loves other dogs. He is very, very social. It's very rare for him to meet a dog that he doesn't like. The dog he's a little, he can be a little bit sensitive. So if he does meet a dog, and that dog maybe is a bit too full on, he's very polite about it. He just goes, oh, like, no, that's too much for me. I'm going away. Bye, see you. And so we thought, and we'd had fostered dogs before. And as you saw in the presentation, we had my beagle, and they loved each other. And we thought, okay, you know what? We have an opportunity that's kind of presented itself. Lycan's previous guardian, unfortunately, was no longer able to care for him, and did the best thing that he thought possible by asking me if I would like to take Lycan. And we kind of thought about it, both my partner and I, and we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And Lycan had stayed with us for a couple of days prior to that, about 2 months before. And him and Nero, they got along perfectly fine. So that was a good little tester first and foremost. But then when Lycan did arrive, we had some teething issues. So again, I kind of made that mistake of giving Lycan too much freedom too soon. The house isn't a huge house, but he had access pretty much to his room at all times, the living room at all times, the hallway, the bedroom. And then we kind of narrowed that down a little bit. So I really set the conservatory as Lycan's room and set it up as his room, so that he had that space to go to. And I touched on this in the presentation as well, but it wasn't a negative for him. So it wasn't a punishment-based, situation. It's just if Nero was sleeping and Lycan wanted to play, and maybe he bothered Nero a little bit too much, I would intervene. So I would step in and go, okay, in your room. And he has a very positive in cue, which is where he runs into his room because something good is going to happen. And so that was a good way for us to separate, right? Okay, you want something to do, here is something to do. And that would be in the form of some kind of enrichment, or, if I had time and I thought maybe it was more appropriate to spend some social time with him playing, then that's what I did. So it was a lot of that in the beginning. Now I can say, they can be in the same space with each other. You saw the picture of Lycan on his bed, and Nero has his own ottoman, which is next to the couch, and that's kind of like Nero's spot, like Sheldon's spot. It's Nero's spot. And that's where he spends a lot of his time. If he wants to go and sleep, then that's where he generally goes. He's free to go on any surface. He usually chooses the ottoman or the couch. And Lycan usually chooses the ottoman, the couch, or the bed. The ottoman, the couch. No, not the ottoman. The couch, the floor, or his bed. So they now have a lot more freedom to be together, but I never leave them alone. And still, after 2 years, I never leave them alone. If I leave the house and the house is, even if my partner's in the office, maybe working, Lycan goes in his room, and Nero has that freedom of the rest of the house. The room for Lycan is relatively big, so I'm not concerned about him having a lack of space or anything like that. And he usually has, several kind of items in there that he can chew or play with to entertain himself. And thanks to lockdown, I'm not really, I do a lot of work from home, which provides me with time to meet even more of their individual needs. Right, do you have any questions? Hi, Gemma. Oh, good. Yes, thank you. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. I really think people don't realize how much hormones play in aggression, especially between entire bitches. Hormones are, even when we think about ourselves, if if you're feeling a little hormonal, that does impact your relationships with other people. Our mental health, it impacts the way that we are with other people. If we're physically not feeling well, it impacts the way we are with other people. There are lots of things that are parallel between, the way that we are and the way that we interact with others and, our environment. And the same thing with dogs. That infographic, it wasn't something new to me, the information. I think when I look at cases where I've had intradog aggression, that tends to be between two females, and that tends to be, they could be entire to start with, and then the usual situation is that I come and the person has either already spayed one of the females, both the females, or they're just on the cusp of doing it. So that is something that I definitely have seen a lot of. Hi, Charlotte. How you doing? Right. So any questions about anything that I had to say? Anything that you're confused about? I think the main takeaways from the multi-dog household success is really to look at your dog as an individual. So each dog is their own entity. Like Nero has his likes, his dislikes. Like in equally, they have two different activity levels. But interestingly enough, Nero has he's increased his activity level since we've had Lycan. So he was always active. I always would do a lot with him, but it seems like now even more than ever, especially when we go on our outings, he's ready. He wants to go. He wants to engage. And sometimes he will spend some of that time engaging with Lycan, and some of that time he spends just off sniffing and doing his own thing. Right. We have a question. What would you say is the best way to introduce adult dogs together for the first time that will live together temporarily? So this would be when I said, what about when things go wrong? This is how I would approach a new relationship. So what I would do would be to have the dogs meet, maybe harnesses, long lines, and a barrier between the two of them. So this is a really nice way for you to observe the dogs interacting. And when I say barrier, I mean like something where they can see each other, smell each other, not not maybe one of those wooden fences where they can't really see each other. They just kind of have the smell. You might get some barrier aggression with that situation, and you may even get some with a very open fence. But something that allows the dogs to interact with each other, but if things go a little awry, they're not full on, kind of in a fight really. So long lines, barrier between them, body language. I did mention this in the presentation, and I also think this is something that's extremely important when you have two dogs, is to make yourself aware of what type of body language dogs have. A lot of times we look at the more overt body language, so things like growling, lip kind of curling, biting, all those things. We're like, whoa, where did that come from? Whereas if you make yourself aware of a lot of the more subtle signs, something I tell a lot of clients is stillness. So if your dog was previously like very loose, and then the other dog comes up and that dog just kind of still and kind of waiting to see what the other dog does, potentially the dog is feeling a little bit uncomfortable for some, uncertain reason. Sometimes there's a resource there. Sometimes the dog maybe is having some unknown pain, and historically the other dog has maybe jumped on them or bumped them or something. So when you see those kind of signs, that gives you information that you can utilize, to make the best decisions for your dogs. So between a barrier, long line, so you can actually have something attached to them so you can usher them away if you need to. I would do that quite a few times before letting the dogs have a bit more free play, if everything goes according to plan. So if you see all good body language and you're happy with the way that the dogs are interacting. And then if you can kind of let them into a space which is safe and secure, where they can move around freely and they can engage with each other if they would like to. Again, looking at the body language, making sure that both dog is happy in that interaction, and have it be brief, gradually increasing in time. So I hope that answers your question, Charlotte. Good morning, Tina. Hope you're all very, very well. Right, let me just check the time. So if we don't have any other questions, then I will wrap up. I just wanted to say thank you to Ruby for having me on, and hopefully the full presentation is now on where you can view it, and I will delete the other one. So again, thanks so much. Have a great day, and I will see all of you soon. You can find me, so the end of the presentation, if you want to connect with me or anything like that, you can find that at the end of the presentation. You can click on me, so my profile, and that will link you to my social media. If you have any questions about the presentation, I'm more than happy to answer that, but please direct them to my business page, not my personal messenger. A lot of messages get lost there. So thanks again, guys, and have a great day.